first and foremost, man, before we get even started, how's life treating you?
Life is good, man. Enjoying. Really can't say I'm enjoying the summer, but sun's out here in New England, which is nice. But this summer has really been in the grind, training, preparing for my fight.
Yeah, and speaking of your fight, the unfortunate news came in that, Steve Claggett, is pulling out due to injury. Give me your initial thoughts on that.
Um, yeah, it sucks, man. I think this was gonna be a great fight for the fans, great fight for boxing. He was a high volume pressure fighter. I'm able to mix it up in there too. I can be high volume as well. I can mix it up, and I can also box. So I think it was gonna be an interesting fight, and it sucks that didn't happen. So we'll see what's next.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but the good thing is that the technician is still on the card on August 23rd. The inaugural MVP fight night. How do you feel about, being on such a big event?
Um, it's cool. So for help me understand. So this is when they say this is MVP's first fight night card. Is that like the way they're calling it? Because I understand MVP has promoted fights before. So
Yeah, so like their previous cards are like prospect cards. So
okay,
those are like kind of like the B side cards where it's just like they try to like put prospects together, but this fight night is like they're where they're putting like big names with each
gotcha,
other.
gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. No, it feels good. I think Jake Paul's a great promoter, and Most Valuable Promotions is a great promotional company that does heavy promotion on social media. So I think it's a great opportunity to fight on all different platforms. I fought on Showbox, ESPN, Matchroom, the Zone, MVP on the Zone. So just being shuffled through these promotional cards and just seeing the differences, I think is gonna be dope.
Yeah, and obviously this was supposed to be a high profile fight. It's still a high profile fight for you. When news like this comes so close to fight week, what kind of is your mentality just to kind of stay focused and kind of just stay with the task at hand?
Just keep doing what I was doing. I'm a fighter that can adapt and adjust on the fly. So to me, it doesn't make no difference. I'm ready. I've been preparing and training for 10 weeks, and we're ready to go. It doesn't matter who the opponent is.
Yeah, and one thing about you that always sticks out to me is that you're one of the most effective switch hitters in boxing. Does that being able to box southpaw and orthodox, does that help when when you're studying tape against opponents and kind of trying to figure out how you want to like primarily fight?
Yeah, I look at opponents and I see, can they do well with a southpaw? Can they do well with an orthodox? Do they have problems with one or the other more often than not? And I definitely use that to my advantage. I don't think a lot of fighters can do that. So I use every tool I can to my advantage.
Yeah, and you're currently on a two fight winning streak. Wins that are, very impressive, wins that are on national TV. As you're, kind of building this win streak, do you feel like you're starting to go into the best stretch of your career?
Um, I'm heading into the best stretch. Once I get that world title, I think that would be really the best stretch, because once I get the become world champion, I'll never stop becoming world champion.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're ranked, top 15 in pretty much all four sanctioning bodies. You're ranked number 8 in the IBF. The guy that holds the belt in your division is Richardson Hitchens, a guy that you beat in the amateurs. Is that a fight that you kind of been eyeing?
Yeah, I've been seeing that fight for a long time now. I'm pretty sure he wants his lick back. I beat him in the amateurs, and that's the organization where I'm ranked highest. I'm defending the WBA, which is Gary Russell. I fought him also in the amateurs. I fought a lot of these guys. My last Teofimo, when I fought for the world title, I fought him in the amateurs. So a lot of these guys I've kind of already been in the ring with. So it's exciting to get back in there with them on the world championship level.
And it's always interesting because like pretty much like when you go pro, you've already kind of been in the ring with these guys like early on in you guys' career, but you've had like an extensive amateur back career, over 100 wins and stuff like that. What was the biggest adjustment from, kind of doing the amateur style, which is very technical, a lot of high volume, to kind of the pro style, which you kind of have to space out and kind of really time your strategies.
Um, Technically, it wasn't too much of an adjustment. I know a lot of pros kind of settle in and be a little bit more patient and pick their shots a little bit more. And you tend to do that as a pro. I've had to do that. It took me a while to learn that. My first, I would say, 8 professional fights, I kind of was still fighting, just going in there and like an amateur, just doing what I know how to do off of muscle memory, off of reacting. But the hardest part in reality wasn't adjusting my fighting. It was really more handling the business side of boxing, the marketing, the promotion, in the beginning, dealing with ticket sales, and really posting on social media and trying to sell yourself in a fight. That was for me was the biggest, the hardest thing to do.
Yeah, and you've kind of talked about boxing politics. I know you don't want to talk about it now, but now that like, you're with Box Lab and you're kind of going through these platforms, do you feel like the politics are kind of working in your favor as of recently?
Um, I wouldn't say that exactly, but we just working, and I got a team around me that is working on my behalf, and we all trying to get to the top. I'm the face and I'm the fighter, and I'm the one that wants to become world champion. But obviously, it's a business at the end of the day, and I got people around me that want to see me get up there as well.
Yeah, and one interesting thing, you're from the New England area, but it seems like Orlando has become like a second home because you have been fighting at the Caribe Royale. This is your third straight fight at the Caribe Royale. Does fighting in a very familiar venue kind of ease the nerves on fight day?
Orlando, Florida is like a second home because a lot of people don't know, but I used to live in Florida when I was young. With my dad. I got a lot of family still that lives in Orlando, Florida. So when I go there, my family shows out, which is a big, huge support system for me, which I enjoy. So I've been going to Orlando since I was a kid every summer. I actually lived there, did some schooling over there as well when I was young, and I even fought when I fought on Showbox. It was at the Caribe Royale too. This was against Nahir Albright. I think it was in 2021, around there, some time frame around there. So this would be my fourth time fighting at the Caribe Royale. So it definitely feels like a home to me.
Yeah, and originally this fight was for the WBA Continental USA Championship. I don't know if it's still on the line or anything, but if you win this fight, do you feel like another title shot is in the near future?
Most definitely, that's what we're working for. Every fight that we take, every step we do is to get closer to that world title.
Yeah, absolutely. And at you know, so young in your career, you're fighting the likes of Jamel Herring, Vasily Lomachenko, Teofimo Lopez, and now at 29, you're kind of reaching the prime of your career. What are the biggest lessons that you've taken away from those high profile fights as a youngster that you're taking, into your career now?
It's definitely finishing strong, uh, impressing the judges, knowing who the judges are, and it's sometimes the fight is more than just inside the fight. A lot of times the fight can be a little bit outside the fight. And what I mean by that is just uh, the promoters you're with. If you're on the A side versus the B side, the politics involved in it. That's the fight outside of it. But besides that, unless you knock them out, you got to really take it hard. So that's one thing, and that's one thing I'm trying to show. And I'm just really trying to dominate every fighter in every way
Yeah,
possible.
yeah, and in a previous interview, you've kind of talked about that. Like the biggest lesson you've learned in these, like in your Teofimo fight was, the championship rounds matter. Like finishing strong and stuff like that. Are you looking to get more 12 round fights just so that way you can kind of apply what you're talking about?
Oh no, because I think I can apply that even to a 10 round fight. Making sure in a 10 round fight, defending a title, them championship rounds can be 9 and 10, versus in a 12 round fight they're 11 and 12. So still going in with the same mentality. Doesn't matter how many rounds I'm doing, but whatever the last 2 rounds are, no matter how well or how I feel I dominated the other rounds, making sure that these last 2 rounds I dominate them even more.
Yeah, and you're from Massachusetts, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, boxing lineage in Massachusetts is historic. Rocky Marciano, Marvin Hagler coming from there. How does it feel to add on to that legacy of New England fighters?
Uh, man, it means a lot to me, to be honest. It means a lot. I feel like we haven't had a world champion, I think since John Ruiz. This was a long time ago, a long time ago. And so I'm hoping to be Massachusetts' next world champion.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of want to get away from boxing right now because one thing that, I saw recently is that you've always been ambidextrous. You're talking about playing football with your right hand, playing basketball with your left hand. You know, how did you know that you can really do that at such a young age?
Um, I I, I can't say how did I know that. I just practiced. I guess I just started shooting. It felt more comfortable. Shots were going in, and I did that with everything. If something wasn't working with my right hand, I went in and tried it with my left, and that was with everything. With baseball too. If I was swinging with my right and I was missing, then I'll go and start swinging to my left. And over time, you just get better coordination that way, and you pick up on those skills. And right now, I feel like I'm fluent with both hands.
Why was boxing, the sport that you decided to take, as your career?
Um, Boxing was the one sport that I can just count on myself. I didn't need to rely on a team. If I lost, it was up on me. If I won, obviously it was a team effort, but I couldn't really put the blame on anybody. And it was the one I got into the youngest. When I played basketball and football, it was more like street ball. It wasn't on like an organized team or anything like that. Um, I did football one time organized, but stopped it very quickly. The only other things that I did organized was cross country and track, but that was really just to help me in my boxing career. I did baseball too, but I wasn't that great at baseball. Uh, so I just stuck to boxing because that's what I was really good at.
Yeah, absolutely. And you had you've had like a pretty tight team like that you started with in boxing and in the amateurs. How important is it to have the right people around you, as you progress in your pro career?
Oh, that's super vital. Having the people around you from day one is very important because I feel like they know you best. They truly want what's best for you, but you have to evaluate. You have to have the discernment to know who's right for you and who's wrong for you, who got there momentarily, who's there for the moment. And also it's like I don't think boxing works how other sports work, right? Where in boxing you start as an amateur with somebody, you end as a pro sometimes with that same person. Well, in professional sports like basketball and the NBA, NFL, baseball, you progress throughout the leagues and different schools, and you had different coaches and different trainers, and you kind of progress along the way. Boxing's not really like that, so I think it's a middle ground where boxing is very old school, um, but obviously those organizations have a lot more money, so it's a different league as well. You're playing with a different league, but it's nice to come up with the people you come up with, but you have to know what's best. If you truly want to be the best, I think you have to seek out the best, but also be with the ones who know you as well. Because in boxing, I feel like it's more about chemistry. You can have one of the best coaches and one of the best fighters, but if they don't have chemistry, then it might not work out. So I
Yeah.
think chemistry is very important when you have people around you. The chemistry can fuel that energy to create something very explosive.
Yeah, absolutely. And you being at 140, 140 is a division that is pretty spread out currently. I mean, obviously four different world champions, and it seems like the contenders are just right there, on the level of world champions. How do you feel about the state of the junior welterweight division?
Oh, the junior welterweight I think is a tough division. Every division, top 10, you're gonna have some tough fighters in there. Nobody got there the easy way, and you gotta have some skill. You gotta have some grit to you, and it's gonna be a tough challenge to defeat any of them. Um, and that's what I'm excited for. I love a challenge, and I love just beating the best and what other people consider the best or great. And I feel like fighting better opposition makes me even better.
Last question before uh, what can fans expect August 23rd when you step in the ring for the inaugural MVP fight night?
Uh, they're gonna expect a great fight, entertainment. I feel like they're gonna get the chills when they see me step in the ring. Uh, it's a Rocky Balboa moment for me.
Absolutely. Jamaine Ortiz, thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to me today.
All right, no problem. Thank you.